All right, we are live. Oh man, feels good. It's been a full weekend, gotten a lot done, and I am super excited about today's live stream. We're going to try to answer some really fun questions that I know people have been asking me, not only about how to unfold for Pepakura, especially with harsh angles, but also in terms of scaling Pepakura, which is something that comes up a lot for me. I have a lot of people come to me and ask how to make sure that I'm scaling properly because it can be very difficult. It can be very, very difficult to get this right. And so to that end, we're really going to be digging in deep on that. There will be some math, just a forewarning to anybody who might be watching. There is going to be math tonight. But for now, let's go ahead and take a quick look at a couple things. I just want to plug tomorrow. I will be dropping this magnificent build. We did a Hot Toys Captain Rex build that is going to be going up tomorrow with templates, so you can look forward to that. As well as it is worth noting that as of last week, we were going through and doing some Mandalorian work, and I am very, very excited to say that we will be releasing not only templates for the Shoretrooper, but for the Mandalorian as well. Really excited to have worked with Renewolf's model on this, and I think that we got somewhere really, really pretty. And if the Captain Rex helmet is any indication, I have to say I think these templates are going to yield some really fun results. So we'll have to go ahead and make sure that we can do something special perhaps with the paint with this build, especially with the Mandalorian Season 2 coming out, which is very exciting. So without further ado, let us jump over to the Shoretrooper. Now, I've been requested the Shoretrooper before, and this is perhaps the best model I've found for it. And these are actually templates I've made in the past. They're a little gnarly, and of course I have nothing erased here. But especially with what I have learned about my template making process for domes, I think it's worth noting that this has an interesting grain to it, this model. Just in assessing 3D models, it's worth noting that a radial structure is really common for a lot of domes, but this one is very directional. It's very forward back. So I don't know if we'll be able to turn the darts that we build left to right, but we will definitely be able to do something further with this. Without further ado, let's actually go ahead. We're going to undo this unfold. I'm going to completely undo all of my open edge info, and I'm going to erase and reset all my cut line edges, and we're going to dive right in. So what we're going to do is we're going to do all our 3D work, and then we are going to jump over to the 2D window, and as we do, we will have a chance to scale this model, and to that end, we are going to have a lot of fun. So we go to 3D mode, edit mode, specify cut line edges. We are specifying for the 3D program Pepakura where roughly we want to make the large divisions in our pieces. Now I think, yep, I'm going to be able to double click on many of these edges because I've got such harsh separation between them and other edges that I will just be able to, whoops, do this a little faster than your average bear. Look at that. Already got the face plate or the forehead sort of shield knocked out. Let's go ahead and start going around the edge of this model. Awesome. So this is this sort of wraparound collar piece. This will wind up being one piece, I think. And I actually want to divide it here, I think. I really wish I could get a line from here to there. I think that would be much cleaner. So to that end, we're going to go to 3D menu, edit model. It's going to be edit mode, edit model. And now I am going to take this little window here, and I'm going to split this quad. Ooh, it's not a quad. Can I divide an edge? Maybe. Oh, no, it crashed. Oh my gosh. This is such a rare occurrence. Let's try that again. So it does not want us to edit that model right there for some reason. Good thing we didn't get too far into that, am I right? Holy cats. It would have sucked to lose all that. Gosh, okay. Well, maybe I keep some of my lines in the interest of time here, and we try to do just a little bit of extra work here. Let's see, I could subdivide some edges to try and make them smooth. Try to make this transition from here to there smooth. What happens if I click go on that? Oh, that's just so much worse, right? Am I crazy? Yeah, it is. That's terrible. Oh my gosh. Well, we might just not win this battle with Pepakura today. That's a shame. What if I delete an edge? Can I delete this edge? Woohoo, not that edge. Not that edge. Not that edge either. Whew. Okay, well, I think we're gonna have to live with that then. Then in the name of time, why don't we actually just jump right into scaling this piece? So for the record, it's worth noting that, one moment, sound. It's worth noting that Pepakura models are made for paper craft, and paper has almost no thickness. But what we're doing is we are converting these files into usable patterns for the sake of building with foam. And foam, of course, has quite a bit of thickness, anywhere from 2 millimeters all the way up to 10, 12 millimeters. And to that end, we're going to need to compensate for that. So a couple different things about measuring. Most hat sizes and most head sizing in general is going to be done about the head, by which I mean as a measurement around the head, usually at around the temples / brow area. And so for me, that's roughly a little under 24 inches. I got a big head, got a big noggin. That's okay though. But Pepakura is scaled in 3 dimensions, in linear dimensions. That is to say, a line that completely just cuts straight through my head. Width, height, depth. And that's all we get, really. So when we go to unfold, we click the unfold button. Now, if you're not careful and you check this auto button, it'll just automatically do all the unfolding. We don't want to do that. We would always want to manually unfold our models. We're going to click unfold, having unchecked the auto button. Click unfold. Manual. And we don't want to adjust the scale to fit it all on one page. That would be a very, very tiny helmet indeed. Now, right now it's set at 13.78 inches, which is about 13 inches and 3/4 in height. Now, I'm going to go ahead, I am going to go ahead and say that is too tall. It's too tall. Not by much, mind you, but it is too tall. See, if I were to judge what I feel to be an appropriate height for this, I'm going to say that I want it to cover my chin. So we're going to go from the bottom of the chin to the top of the head, and then add just a little bit. What we'll probably do is we'll probably take this measure, plug it in there, and then scale it up about 10%. So if I were to go up to there, across here, let's call that 10 3/4. So we're going to shave off 3 inches of what this already is. For those of you who use the metric system, it's the same thing. You just use the other side of the tape measure. It's super easy. It's super easy. So we're going to say that's a 10 3/4, so 70.75. Spacing, I'm just going to reduce the spacing so that we save some space and it's a little clearer. And I don't care about placing parts avoiding the borders of the page. Why do I always manually unfold rather than use auto? Because when you auto unfold, it won't necessarily give you a chance to address scale. And what's more, it's also very tough to use because you're going to be manipulating everything after the fact. So let me show you. When I go ahead and unfold this, this has got about, what did it say, 5,000 faces? We go through here. And these pieces are already pretty clean. And this is everything. Nothing is missed here, including all the thickness of the pieces. Everything rendered here is now in the 2D window. But had I not had all that time to manipulate the actual unfolding process, I would have to go back into the 2D menu and change the scale. Now, there are several options in this menu, which I think are important to address real quick. Scaling up or down 10%, I find, is about the thickness of foam for any given piece. Now, of course, that's going to be more skewed the smaller of a piece you're working on. Like, I have a model that's just the fingers of an Iron Man gauntlet, and I wouldn't want to scale that in measures of 10%, because 10% is a whole heck of a lot when you're discussing the fit of a piece that's already quite small. And, of course, when you're discussing things that are quite large, if I had a head-to-toe suit, I wouldn't necessarily want to go through and just up the scale of that by 10%, because suddenly it's going to be way too big. So I don't tend to deal in these except for like single pieces that are like a helmet, just a chest piece, just an arm piece, etc. Mostly I go to, sorry about that. Mostly I just go to set scale. And when we set scale, what we get are these 3 dimensions. And if I wanted to illustrate these more perfectly, I can go to the 3D menu and click Show Dimension Lines, which sets up this neat little box around our model, which shows that it's 8.62 inches this way and 10.37 inches this way. And all that is, in fact, proportionally based off the fact that I inputted that the height needs to be 10.75 inches. Now, you'll note when I said 10.75 inches, that is just the measure from here to here. And because there's foam, there's going to be some thickness there. And we're going to want to scale this up. I am going to scale it up 10% for the sake of this, which, see, isn't that much. And here, in fact, I'll undo it and redo it. Not that much. We're talking maybe another ½ inch around fully once we've put everything together. But that's going to give us the space that we need in order to put this thing together. We'll redo that. There we go. Let's say that this is not going to work out. Let's see, 8.62 inches across. What even is that? 8.62. That's like this far across. That's not far enough across, is it? Is it? I need my camera. There we go. I mean, that's gonna be enough for me without being bobbleheaded. But let's say it was not long enough or not wide enough. How do we fix this? So Pepakura does not scale in a single dimension. It scales proportionally, which means that there is a proportion in all 3 dimensions that it will always attempt to honor. So if I were to increase just the height of this from, say, 10.75 to 11, and I'll even show you, if I were to change the scale from 10.75 to 11 inches tall, you'll note everything else is going to get a little bigger, 8.82, 10.61. That is because they are all in proportion to one another, which means that if you need more of any particular dimension, you need to go off the smallest dimension that you're working with. I.e., if I have a super tall head, but it's very slim and it's not particularly deep, I'm going to want to go off of that measure, and everything else can kind of be proportioned around that. Anything else that you might want to do would either need to be fully remodeled or edited in post. Say I just needed this thing to be thinner overall and I didn't care about the proportion of the thing, I could essentially just take a centimeter off of the center line and call it a day. That's totally fine. But let's say right now that this is 11 inches across. And that's not quite working for us, but we actually want to scale off of a very specific measure. Let's say it's important to me, not just that the outer edge is correct, but that I know how close this thing is going to get to my temples. Because you'll see there's many different layers here. There's a layer out here, in here, and it just keeps going in and in and in. Let's say I want to know that. I can go to the edit mode. I can measure distance between 2 points. There's no key command for this, and that's okay for me. But all that you can do with this is measure between any 2 points. And you can either do that in the 3D window or the 2D window, and it will represent it in either 2 dimensions or 3. Here's what I mean. If I were to, say, measure the distance between this point and this point here in the 3D window, looks like it's going to be 5.67 inches. And that's great. That's pretty appropriate. It's like this big right near my chin, which is perfect. But if I were to measure those same two measurements, those same 2 points in the 2D window, they are nearly 24 inches across. And this is kind of what I mean when I say that sometimes you need to measure based on a specific measurement. So let's say I want to know the distance between this point right here and the same point on the other side. That's going to be 7.34 inches. Now, hypothetically, that should be how far apart my temples are, plus or minus just a little bit. So 7.34 inches across this way. Oops. Doop-a-doop. Across this way. I would actually argue is almost a little too big. So let's say I wanted to take it down to 7.25 inches. How do we change that 7.34 into 7.25? I hear you cry. Well, allow me to get out a piece of paper and show you exactly how we do that, because it's both easier and way worse than it should be. So, we're going to take this piece of old sheet music here, and what we do is a little something like this. So we have 7.34 and 7.25. And that is equal to, whoops, we're going to go to change scale, set scale. That is equal to this number right here. We've got the scale unit. I'll take the whole thing because I can, and I've got a calculator. 3.0457 or x. Awesome. So I told you, I warned you, there was gonna be math. This is the equation we're working with that does not want to focus. There we go. So our current number, over our desired number is equal to our current scale over our desired scale. And all we have to do now is solve for x, because life is hell, and we have to do math and prop making. The good news is this is actually very, very easy to solve, because all that's going to happen here is we're going to multiply the number over x by 7.25, and then divide it by 7.34. I could show you exactly how this math all works, or you could just take my word that that's how it works, that you multiply that by that and divide it by that. So if we were to take 3.50457 and multiply it by 7.25 and then divide that multiplication by 7.34, we would get a number that looks like this. Let's see. 3.50457 times 7.25 and then divide by 7.34. We're going to be left with a new scale that is roughly 3.461. Actually, it's much closer to 3.4616. 4616. Now, is this too much work to be doing for a simple helmet? Is this too close? Is it too accurate? I would argue no. I would argue that this is a much more accurate way of finding out how to get the proper scale, because you can measure specific elements. For instance, if I was concerned that I wasn't going to have enough nose space in this, I can adjust for that too, because you'll note that this piece kind of juts inward. So if I wanted to grab the upper edge of that piece, this point right here, and pull it to, say, the back point right there, this is going to be roughly a straight line. 9.333. And if I did 9.9 1/3 inches, I would know that yes, I will have enough space for my nose. By the skin of my teeth, I will in fact have enough space for my nose. And so you can kind of see how it's worth doing this fine tuning and this fine checking to make sure that you're going to wind up with something that looks the way you want. Because part of the problem with scale is not just the worry that it's not going to fit you or it'll be too tight in one direction. It's also the nerve-wracking position of thinking about, oh gosh, is this going to fit, but is it going to be so large that I'll need to pad it out so far that I just look like a bobblehead? And that's just not something you want to have to deal with, because the nature of foam templates is such that, well, sometimes you get deep into a project and you realize that there is, quite frankly, no way to restart that project, and there's no way to create a mock-up of it in another material because you kind of need to do it out of foam. And so it's just worth doing the scaling on the front end. If anybody, as well as I know there are newcomers to this craft, if anybody is curious about Pepakura, I do these weekly live streams every Tuesday, as well as there are links to Pepakura all over the place. I think I've got one in the description here. Pepakura is a free program. It's super nice. It's very slick, and it does do a very good job most of the time. I swear to God, it does not crash like it did tonight very often. All right. So let's see. This is actually extremely clean already, because we decided to use past Jaden's very, very helpful previous unfold. And to that end, we're not going to be making a ton of edits to it. Let's see. This is going to be extremely easy. This is like one piece right here. I actually might try to... No, actually, that's not necessary. You're getting to witness me desperately trying to make new decisions in real time, which is always fun. It's always fun to second guess your work in real time. So let's see. I'm going to... Perfect. This is basically one piece. You'll note that there is a sort of divot underneath here. Hello. It just sort of dips in on itself, and we don't need to render that in the templates. We can actually just make that its own piece. We might even just sort of stick them next to each other because they're basically straight lines, so why not? Here we go. I actually have no qualms with the way this is slightly curving. I think that'll actually be perfect for assembly. Awesome. We'll stick that up over there. Here we go. Here we go. All right, that is all basically one piece, but there is a triangle that goes with it. But this, actually, I think this piece is unnecessary. I don't think we need any of this, really. Weirdly enough, I think there's a perspective issue going on, which makes it seem like this flattens out in a way that's meaningful, but it's not. This is just edge piece. It's unnecessary. What do I mean when I say edge piece? Foam itself has thickness. If I were to make this model out of paper, all that I would do is literally take every single piece, even the edge, to imply that there's thickness to all of these materials. But because I am working in foam, which has its own thickness, and I tend to work in a thickness of about 6 millimeters, I can go ahead and ignore and remove any piece from our Pepakura templates that will be of a thickness of about 6 millimeters or so, because it's just not going to be necessary. One moment. There we are. So, to that end, this piece would essentially just be rendered by the foam of this piece with an edge underneath. That's all we gotta think about there. All right, to that end, we're just gonna set this over here, and that over here is unnecessary. Let's see, this looks like another piece of unnecessary thickness. The hashtag thickness, and you know what? I'd be correct. I am just going to make a separation in this piece at a meaningful spot so that it, when we go ahead and erase some lines here, it's going to be visually pleasing, because that's something I think about a lot. Let's see, this piece is also unnecessary. We don't need that. Here we go. We are making some slight changes to the past build I worked on. You know, it's not quite the same thing it was. This is interesting because we are going to need to make several edits to this. We're going to join several pieces together. Let's see, go right over this edge. Yep, that goes there. This goes here. Love it. And this disappears under the edge of the mask there, but it does appear to actually join up with some things. Oh, awesome. So this is sort of where the edge of the goggle meets. And I think we can actually adjoin that. Yeah, I think that this will actually make a very, very tight sort of piece right here. Let's see. Oh, and it does join all the way across. Nice. Nice. We really like that, actually. This will make our lives a lot easier in a moment. Now, the one thing I am experiencing right now is that this really doesn't want to join in the center. And it's because all of these darts are just pushing the top of the brow in. So as I create those darts, it's going like this, and it's trying to cup it this way, which is not going to work. That is just not going to work together like that. So we recoup. We reevaluate. Let's see. I think this piece right here can probably be pushed apart. You know, what if I simply took the goggle itself out and made it its own piece? Because then it wouldn't join in the center, but it would still be a fairly simple piece to essentially build straight on top of the last piece. Boop. Just like that. And in that same way, we would not create significant darts there, but we would honor that length in a way that when we glued these two pieces together, the competing bows would actually create the shape of the helmet. And when I go to 2D menu and do a little test run of what I will do at the end of this, we actually see that, yep, that becomes very negligible and looks very good. Now, here's something worth noting. So this edge right here, where it's not joining right here, will actually disappear when we're done. But it's important to know how it will disappear. Because if it goes down the bottom like this, if I lose thickness here, it will look a little different, but I won't actually have any joining issues because this edge doesn't join to anything. So this as is isn't the worst thing in the world. But if I make too many significant darts either along this edge or this edge, I could start to receive some pretty negative consequences when I try to join it against this piece. To that end, what I think I'm going to do is kind of split the difference here. So we're going to do just like a couple of tiny ones, couple of tiny darts, and then when we hit the bottom here, we are actually just going to leave it like that. Even though it's going to cut it just a little shy when we join it together, what we will end up with is a piece that will honor these outer and inner edges a lot cleaner, which is very important when we're thinking about where to take small liberties with 3D space to 2D space. Now, in my old unfold, I had actually left this edge on this piece to simply layer it on, but I think on my new unfold, I'm just going to get rid of it outright because I don't think I don't actually think it adds a whole lot to the overall ease of build. I think actually we'd be much better off just taking this and separating it out as an edge that we do not need. There we go. Let's separate that over here. Man, now we're really getting somewhere. I really like that. Let's see. I'm going to take the goggle. I'm going to do something I don't always do, which is I am actually going to take the thickness from the edge around this mask. I'm going to turn this off for a moment. I am actually just going to join the thickness to the edge of this as sort of like a guide as to how big to make your visor piece. Because obviously you can't just have the visor be perfectly right inside. You've got a sneak teaser of tomorrow's build. You've got to make it just a little bit thicker on the inside so that you've got something to glue to. Because otherwise you're just SOL. There's nowhere for you to go with that. You're left with a puzzle piece that sits perfectly inside a 3D object in 2D space, which just does not work. Here we go. Let's glue that together. For those of you who are new to Pepakura, what I am using right now is the Join Disjoin Face tool. It's Control N on your keyboard, or if you go to 2D menu, Edit Mode, Join Disjoin Face. Here we go. Now this is going to look kind of like a mess, and the truth of the matter is that's because it's a mess. But the reality is that this outer edge doesn't matter so much as this inner edge matters. And this inner edge is completely unbroken. And that is what we're looking for. We're looking for an unbroken inner edge to guide where the visible face of the visor goes, not where it needs to be glued. This outer edge is ultimately just a reference for how big to cut your visor in order to have it, to leave it with some space to glue together. Awesome. And see, when I go together and I join these adjacent edges, you'll note it sort of just leaves a wing around the whole thing. And that's all we really wanted it to do. Here we go. Wow, we are just cruising along here. Let's see, I'm going to take all of this and make it one piece. Well, almost all of this. Here we go. Yep, that's going to go here. It's going to go there. This, although it is flat there, we do not need this edge. It falls into that realm of like just thickness we talked about before. Here we go. This is also not super important, although I might leave these two rectangles here as essentially like guides for how thick to make this piece right here. So we'll keep that, and we will tag that to here. Here we go. Oop, this is actually upside down. That's why I'm having trouble understanding it. Here we go. Most of this is going to want to stick together. There's going to be a little bit of overlap at the top. We're going to try and join this closer to the center. So, yep, that'll ease the burden on all of those darts just a little bit. Awesome. And we are, again, losing just a little bit of thickness here, but it's pretty minimal. It's pretty minimal. We shouldn't need to lose a lot of sleep about that. Because when I join this together, that's going to be a very clean piece. Here we go. Need all of that. We don't need this. These are just thickness pieces. These are the thickness pieces that kind of go right here that just show that this dips in slightly. All of these rectangles are just rectangles from the back of the helmet that are, while they are important to understand they are there, they are also rendered by the absence of rectangle right here. So not as concerning. Not as concerning. Here we go. Let's see. This rectangle is the same thing as, where's the other guy? Where's the blasted? There it is. It's this other one. They are essentially useless to us from a foam building standpoint because, again, they are rendered by the absence of rectangle right there. Man, it's only 6:33. We are booking it, which is great. It's almost like if I do some work ahead of time, these go a lot better. But I refuse to learn a lesson there. I am thinking that I am actually going to join this edge to this piece. And I'll tell you why. It's because then all I have to do is do an undercut, and then I can line this up edge to edge all the way around, rather than trying to inset this piece slightly and just eyeball it. I can actually, I have the exact measurement basically, and I don't need to worry about it. I will, however, need to check and make sure that this does actually clean up when I join adjacent edges. So let's stick that back together. 2D menu, join adjacent edges, and yeah, no, that'll, let's see, if I think this will be a little better. I'm cheating a little by leaving some space in there, but I'm actually getting the edges back a little closer to where they were. Oh, that's way better. Yep, we'll keep it that way. And you know what? I actually think we've honored the shape a little better there, which is great. That's exactly what we want to see. So let's see here. Move that over a little more. Let's see. We've got where the heck is this piece? Oh, interesting. So this is actually two pieces. It's got an inner face, as though I were to construct it wholly separately, which I will not need to do, which makes these unnecessary pieces, because I just have the thickness of this piece. The hashtag thickness. Awesome. That is an unnecessary piece. Where is the rectangle that belongs to? There it is. And actually, to that end, where is the rectangle that goes in there? Well, the set of rectangles. Sweet. Those are two very unnecessary pieces. Which is okay, because we've got the two ear-ish pieces here. Evening, Melvin. You know, gosh, we are verging on nearing done with this piece at just 6:35, which is so great. I can't tell you how great that is, because I'm exhausted, because I've been weathering this Captain Rex helmet all day, just all day. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Not to mention the weather. I don't know what's happening where everybody else is, but in Minnesota, it is the apocalypse. It's the apocalypse. It is the snow apocalypse. And, you know, there's just not a whole lot to be done about that other than saying it's snowing like crazy out. And I can do nothing about it. Let's see, does this actually stick to anything? What does this stick to? Oh, I see. There's like a visor edge down here that this appears to stick to. But I'll tell you something. That is so comically useless to us. And I'll tell you why. The Shoretrooper's visor, I have seen no media in which it comes down. So there's no reason for us to build it as though it comes down, which means that we don't need to render what's underneath this thing. Is it just chilly where you are, Morgan? Well, that's something, I guess. Sorry, but there's no reason to render basically anything underneath that helmet. Not just because we don't fully understand what goes under there, but like also because nobody would possibly see or know anything about what's under there. So why would we do it? All right. I am actually going to do something a little sneaky on this piece as well, real quick. This is the piece that is the inner circle here, and you'll note there's an edge to it, and I can't just join the edge to it because it's recessed slightly, but if I take the thickness piece and I join it all the way around, I can kind of sort of mock up a piece that does look like it is the inner face with the outer face, and in that way, I sort of cheat my way into having a piece that does exactly what I want it to do, which is, I think, a very strange way of going about it, but will result in a piece that is very clear in its intention, and will be very easy to build as well. Now, this is by no means a beginner's helmet either, which is not to say you shouldn't attempt it if you're interested in making it, because frankly, it's very cool. The Shoretrooper probably has one of my favorite trooper designs in recent history, other than maybe the Death Trooper, although the Death Trooper and the Shoretrooper are basically the same trooper. One is just solid black, which probably has like implications I'm not going into right now. Here we go. There we go. That's there. That'll do. Stick that together. Stick this together. Here we go. I will keep this edge, though, as it clearly bounds the outer edge of that. And then, well, gosh. This is very simple. This is going to just be a marathon sort of fun session real quick of making some curved faces. Because the more I look at this, the more I realize, because this is so directional, if I were to, unless I were to completely edit the model, I think in order to get a line that goes across here to create sort of a bounded edge, I would have to create a very harsh corner here that I really don't care for. So I'm just going to leave this like this. Very clean, but you know, not necessarily the most specific shape, or perhaps the best shape for a dome. My recent build, Captain Rex's helmet, the Hot Toys version, it's a modified Phase 2 Clone Trooper helmet. And one of the things I was able to do with it that I am very excited about is I was essentially able to go through and determine which style of helmet building is better. You know, a dome that sort of folds down into itself, or a dome that wraps around. And what I wound up doing is actually the same thing you can see right here in the Mandalorian templates that I'm working on, which is a dart that runs essentially longitudinally across the helmet. And this creates a very nice bounded edge along all the edges that it needs to join, and hides all the dart inside the main face of the helmet. And it is sort of a pain in the butt to cover over, but if you can do it right, it's a much easier, cleaner build with a better shape overall, which is really what we're looking for as prop makers, I feel. The ease of build, and then finishing is always going to be finishing, no matter how much you're doing, frankly. There we go. Let's see. I can probably make this almost one piece here. Let's see. How out of bounds is this? So this is going... Oh, this is upside down. That's what I'm looking at. Okay. So this is a pretty funky shape. All right. This brings up an interesting question. Do I make it two pieces so that the shape is inherently round across the bridge of this visor piece? Or do I make it one piece with the intention of foam shaping it so that I don't have a seam? How gnarly. I might do it so that it doesn't have a seam. I know in the past I had thought that what I really wanted slash needed was to make this essentially two pieces for the sake of shape. But I actually have more faith in my abilities now, and I think, oops, I don't actually need that. I think that if I just made this one piece, I would actually be more than capable of heat forming it into place. And I think if we just go through, do that now. Yeah, because those darts are pretty minimal. Those are pretty minimal darts. And what more can you ask for than pretty minimal darts? In this time of global pandemic, all we really need is minimal darts. Here we go. Yeah, I actually like that a lot. This looks like it would be extremely easy to put the proper curve in, and then you've got no seam there, which is just that's perfect. Fewer seams means a cleaner build, and a cleaner build is what we're always striving for when we try to go through the process of making templates that are supposed to, you know, save us time and make these builds cleaner. Here we go. All right, so this is the whole visor piece straight across, one piece. And you can see now that because I've done this, there's a slight curve to the vague overall edge of this. Here, I'll outline that in a second here. You can see right across here, that is now sort of a rounded shape. And that means that when I heat form it with a bow in the center, that will straighten out these lines in 3D space. And were I to join all these adjacent edges, that looks great. I'm keeping that forever. What is this? Where does this come from? Oh, that's just another rectangle. Don't need that. These are the rounded circles that make up the circles that are just spaces in these pieces, which means that I can disjoin that and say we don't need that. Move it over there. Let's see. These are more of these pieces which go over the top of the head. What is this piece? What is this rectangle that sort of sticks together with two triangles? What is it? Oh, it's the inner edge of this piece, which we are keeping. So I don't need this piece. Wait, no, this piece, which we are keeping. So I don't need that piece, but I do need these pieces. Don't need these few extra rectangles, dang it. These are just thickness, the hashtag thickness that we don't need. And then this is another piece of thickness that just goes underneath the chin there. In the model, let's see. And then this is another piece of thickness that we are going to clean up real quick because we do not want to leave anything undone. Because we like a nice clean visual when we're all done. And that sometimes that involves taking the time to join some faces together that are never going to be built. The life of the artist is hell. It is. And I feel no shame in saying that out loud. Ugh. Here we go. Stick that together there. I think this might be the last disjoin and join that we have to do other than the, other than just going over the helmet itself. I think that this is going to be quite nice. Oh, that's weird. I just like that. That's... Let's see. If I join that, does it... Okay, fine. I'll call that good. I'll call that good. Again, like I said, this is not actually going to be something that we build, so whatever. Here we go. Which means that these pieces are probably the only things that will matter. I'm going to join them all, across this edge for now, just so that we have something to jump off from. Sweet. And same thing here. Here we go. That's all those faces here. I weirdly feel like I should take about 2 edges off of either side, 2 faces off of either side, and stick them to this in the name of a slightly smoother build when we're done that doesn't have such extreme edges. Sorry, I've been cooped up all day long. So I'm just bursting with energy here as I try to barrel towards the finish of this piece. Oh yeah, I can tell the good people what we're doing after this. We're gonna watch West Wing, because like if I can't have real civil discourse, I'm gonna have fake civil discourse. West Wing rocks. If I could make a prop from West Wing, I would do it. There's just nothing that isn't also like a protected item of like the White House. Just a suit. It's just a suit. So I don't think I've got anything from West Wing that I could pull as a fun prop build. Unfortunately, here we go. Let's actually join it along these edges here. Lupita, you must be quiet. I am live streaming. Sorry, kitty cat Lupita. There we go. And that's good enough for me as one piece, and I'll just edit this one real quick to do the same thing, because symmetry is important. Gosh. Here we go. Look at that. Actually, I'm gonna take the the edge piece here, and I'm also going to just trim that down just a little bit. so that this edge is a lot cleaner there. Well, what happens if I go one further? Yeah, I could live with that. I could live with one more. There we go. Try to negotiate this side versus these sides, and I think that will finally be good. And with that, we're going to join adjacent edges and hide all the edges we don't need, because we've only got 10 minutes left on this live stream, and I will finish this on stream. Dang it. Here we go. Erasing all those edges because we don't need them. I'm going to erase this, but keep that gray line because I feel like it's a color guide, so we're going to keep that. Same with this gray line right here. Very important, that the gray line. Go. Here we go. Let's see. Can I trick this? Can I trick this by... Oh, no, I can't. That sucks. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the color for a moment so that I can see what I'm doing. Yep, just erasing all these lines that indicate folds that I would use were I to, say, make this out of paper. Although, to be perfectly frank, if I attempted to make these patterns out of paper now, they would not work at all because paper is... Well, paper, okay, if I were to actually like logistically explain why foam is different than paper, is that paper can only curve itself in one direction or the other direction, whereas foam can do a compound curved surface. And that is the reason why I use foam, and it's also the reason why I can make the patterns perform the way that they do. Now let's see, this doesn't need any of those lines, because that's just a round shape all the way over. This, however, definitely, well, what does the actual helmet look like? I've got to check real quick. Shoretrooper. Let's see, does it have an edge there? Am I crazy? Let's see, no, it doesn't. Well, no, it doesn't look like there's an edge there. It looks like it's just round there. So I'm actually just going to get rid of all of those lines because I don't need them. Go. We will again keep these gray sections outlined because they are good guides for when we are painting. Here we go. Woo! Round shapes require no lines. Here we go. This is, I think, going to require lines here because that is sort of it's either going to be a bevel that I grind from the outside of the piece or an undercut that I carve into the bottom of the piece. Either way, this is going to need those lines, and I accidentally hit a line that I need. Put that back in. There we go. Doop-a-doop. Get rid of that. There's a hard edge there, but these edges aren't important. This undercut is important, and these undercuts aren't, but this edge around the whole thing will be. Let's see, that's perfectly round, actually, so I'm going to get rid of this. Even though there is an edge in this model, it's worth noting that, like, when I cut this out, I would cut it out round, because there's no actual point there. That would be unnecessary, frankly. Here we go. Let's see here. Like I said, I added the edge of that piece to this piece so that I've got the outer edge and the inner edge, and they sort of represent that ring with the recessed inner side. And it's nice and even too, which is, I think, the important thing here. Because you'll note it doesn't actually highlight the outer edge, but it does look roughly the same thickness. Here we go. There is actually something of a line that's vertical on this, but is not in line with the actual model. So we're just gonna, we're just gonna erase pretty much all of that. Erase, 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 erase. Lots of round shapes here, which is great. It's actually what we love. That's ideal. Here we go. And in the interest of a clean model, we're going to do the same thing here where we don't erase the edges of the gray bits, even though these aren't pieces that we're building. There we go. Boop. But everything else is pretty much getting erased. Pretty much. Look at that. Oops. No. Here we go. Erase, erase. Here we go. I've had some people ask me why I erase these lines, and I think the easiest answer is because I like my templates to be super clear, unto the point of being proof of misunderstanding because of additional lines. I don't want to say idiot proof because that doesn't imply the right things, and also doesn't actually accurately describe what I'm trying to say, which is to say that it just looks like the thing, so it looks like the way it's supposed to be. Here we go. And there's no ambiguity in that, frankly. Here we go. Get rid of that. Get rid of those teeny tiny little lines. I needs it. I gots to do it. There we go. There's a line there. This is all lines. This is all lines. Get rid of those lines. Girl, get rid of those lines. Here we go. No lines. No lines. No lines. Here we go. Oh my gosh. Gosh, this is like almost totally done here. What am I missing? What have I not? Oh, there it is. I haven't done this edge. And then there's another edge somewhere here that's eluded me because there's a bunch of lines on. Oh, right. I did not do the lines around this guy. Which, like I said, these aren't important because we're just using that as a guide for gluing. Ha ha ha. I'll get rid of this so that I can actually see those lines, so that I can get rid of them. Perfect. No, I'm still missing something. There's a... Ah, this hasn't been erased. That's because most of it's gray, so it was hard to see the black lines on the dark gray. Which is why we kind of toggle and make sure in the 3D window everything is all square, which it is. So I'm going to get rid of the dimension lines. I am going to reset the model view. I am going to click Control and click through everything that we are keeping. Oops, nope. Don't want that piece. I want this piece. I want that piece. I actually want this piece. Dot. 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 Gosh, and I think that is all we are keeping from this, and everything else can be just moved way the heck away, because we don't need any of those pieces. In fact, all we need are these pieces, and this is actually a terribly simple build. Like, some of these pieces are a little long, don't get me wrong, but we're going to take the rotate tool. We are going to make this a perfectly vertical line. We're going to make this a perfectly vertical line, and we are just going to ever so gently line that up. I get it doesn't perfectly line up, but it doesn't have to. All it has to do is set together so that when I'm building it, I know I can inset that piece, but it all sort of gets cut out together. Here we go, Control G. Perfect. Oops. And I'll just make this vertical for the sake of trying to conserve paper space. Settings, print and paper settings. We work in letter paper because I am a filthy American. Here we go. Set that together there. And then we're just going to go through and we're going to arrange all these pieces so as to try to save paper, because nothing is worse than having a model that just unduly wastes space and paper, because like we're on a budget. We're on a budget. Why would I waste paper? We're on a budget. Here we go. Gosh, we are like a hair away from this. Go. I'm realizing now that if I really wanted to be extra, I could have redone this, but also like rounded over the edges that I'm looking at now that are square but are supposed to be round. But I do think that that is a live stream for another day. Here we go. This goes here. This is going to go here, but I'm going to stretch it over these 2 pages because that way there's room right here for this and right here for that. Then this can go up here. And with that, we've got all the pieces. And it all fits on 6 pages. I bet you there's a way to jigger it down to like 5 pages, but I am not in the headspace for that right now. So we are going to save this. We're going to put that texture on. We're going to say, oh, look at that. Ain't he beautiful? And then we're going to thank everybody for showing up. We really appreciate you showing up when you really didn't have to. And that's great. I love it. These live streams have been a lot of fun for me, and I really hope that you guys are getting something out of this. I do these live streams every Tuesday, Thursday. This Thursday, we're going to be continuing work on our Star-Lord build. And again, tomorrow is the full build guide for Captain Rex. So stick around for that. Stay tuned. There'll be full templates for this guy, as well as a really cool build guide that I'm excited about. For now, though, if you like what you see, you can pick it up on my Etsy store. I sell templates. I sell full builds. But I want to thank you all so much for coming. For Foam Armory, I have been Jaden. Thank you guys so much, and take care.